But now I can finally go surfing. So I'm gonna pull out my board here and put the key fob inside, scramble the combo, and it's off to have a great time surfing. Hey crew, I've got the key to that Cadillac Escalade V, and today we're gonna see what it's like to live with, and we'll start our day with remote start. Sorry neighbors. Yes, as one of my neighbors so delicately described the cold start of an Escalade V, it's like NASCAR came to town. I think it's perhaps a little less crazy, but it's still a dramatic wake-up call for anyone who is still resting their eyes on a quiet morning. Now this is after the vehicle has been sitting idle for 10 minutes now. It's still a resonant thump vibrating through the neighborhood. Spacing wise in my driveway, it parked next to my Cadillac Escalade V that is sitting, I want to say maybe 8 inches from the edge there, and the Escalade V is sitting maybe 5-6 inches from the edge. There's still enough space to walk in between the cars, though if you're wheeling a stroller as my wife was, you're hoping for the vehicles to be pushed a little bit further to the edges. My Cadillac is shielded from the elements under this hard cover sealskin semi-custom cover, and on the inside there's a nice wool lining to protect the paint. If you guys want to pick up one of these covers, I'll include a discount code in a card so you can go get one of those. Hopping into the Escalade V for the first time, actually, you know what, let's look at it from the front. In this Argent Silver Metallic, it's a mean mug. Looks really cool. Now getting inside, if you've got the key fob in your pocket, it has smart keyless entry. Look at a little bit of sunscreen left over. And you can just put your hand on the door. It will unlock, the mirrors will fold out, and a running board will deploy. With this spacing, I can go one notch of the door, and that's gonna be plenty of room for me to walk on in. And it really is a walk on in. Hey cabin crew. Thank you for joining me for this day in the life video with the Cadillac Escalade V. And I'm gonna start by stowing the items I have with me, including my water bottle, which fits nicely into this side cubby. You've got another one on the passenger side. You've got a wireless smartphone charging slot for my phone to stick in right there. I've already got my GoPro sitting there, so I'll put that there, that in there, and you might be like, well, what's in the console? Well, this one has an optional fridge that right now is holding other mic stuff, but it's a fridge freezer, so you can choose between the cool levels right there. Now, because I've got the vehicle remote started, it's not actually ready to go until I actually hit the start stop button with my foot on the brake and the key fob within the vehicle. Now we're good to go after I put on my seat belts and pull this gear selector back down into drive and release the parking brake. Now we can roll out down over the gutter of my driveway. Of course, clearance is not being an issue here in this big burly SUV. Before we do leave my neighborhood, I want to test out the turning circle of this Escalade V. So pulled over here to the right, we're clear. I'm gonna crank the wheel, and as I do so, pull up the camera system. That's just better than what I expected. We did not take up the whole lane, so I think if you just know the dimensions of this vehicle, you're gonna be just fine. Now for the turn signal sound. Sounds like a lazy get-up in a horse. Click clunk, click clunk, click clunk. And what about the world famous horn test? Loud and proud. And there is one last thing to mention before we get out onto the open road while we're still in a neighborhood setting. If you are conscientious, then you're sitting here thinking, making a lot of noise. Is there anything I can do to appease my neighbors? And the answer is yes. So let me pull off to the side here and show you the drive modes. You hit this button and you pull up the tour mode, sport, snow and ice, tow or haul, and my mode. My mode is customizable. So here you can set your steering heft, your suspension firmness, your braking feel, and also your engine sound. So where we started this vehicle with remote start, it was in the Tour Drive mode at this level of volume. And to compare, this is Sport. Just a little bit deeper, and then this is Stealth. That closes up those baffles in the exhaust, and it does make a difference. So if you wanted to, you could actually leave the vehicle in My mode and Stealth level of engine sound, and when you started your next day, either via remote start or here in person, it would start the vehicle also in My mode and in Stealth engine sound. Turning attention now to ease of driving an Escalade V. In the My mode setting or the Tour Drive mode, you're gonna have throttle response that is never lacking in oomph, but is also not overly sensitive, and brakes that are responsive, but also easy to modulate. You always have to remember the Escalade V is a truck. It is a body-on-frame SUV, and so the ride is going to be busier than a unibody crossover. But these magnetic ride control dampers are working overtime to keep you as comfortable as possible, such that you feel the bumps, but you do not fear the bumps. And these seats are not the cushiest things in the world, but when you've got massage functions and when you've got the ergonomics of the chairs, the adjustability of them, and of the tilt and telescope of this wheel, you are going to be comfortable for even long journeys. In terms of visibility in the Escalade V, there's good and bad here. For one, you're sitting nice and up high, and I really do like this vantage point such that I can see over most traffic, but there are also large blind spots. Just over my shoulder here, with the second row headrests in place, you can fold them down. You've got that massive blind spot basically between the C and the D pillar because the headrest is blocking the back window. And so yes, you've got a digital rear view mirror, you've got nice large door mirrors, you've got blind spot monitoring, but your naked eye visibility is impaired. This 6.2 liter supercharged V8, an LT4 motor I'm very familiar with from my Cadillac CT5V Blackwing, is a lot of fun to play with even around town. 682 horsepower, 653 pound-feet of torque. Blast between stoplights, put a fat grin on your face. And the grin then turns into a relaxed smile as you back off because this 10-speed automatic gearbox is very smooth in the gear changes. The only problem with this mega powertrain is its mega fuel consumption. So the EPA rates the Escalade V at 11 mpg in the city, 16 on the highway, and 13 combined. And that means that your 24-gallon fuel tank is going to be exhausted, as we're seeing here, very quickly. You'll have a little over 300 miles on a full tank, but that's if you're driving it like the EPA would drive it. And if you have this power, you're probably not going to drive it nearly as conservatively, at least if you're me. And so in my case, I've been averaging 9.5 miles per gallon during my week with the Escalade V. And when you're seeing fuel prices of $4.79 for 91 octane fuel, which this vehicle requires, then you'll be looking at 115 bucks every time you're filling up. But I refuse to let the constant, expensive fill-ups get me down, because the Escalade V makes it fun to burn that fuel. Like here on my morning commute, where the on-ramp poses an opportunity for me to go into the V mode and let freedom reign. The upshifts are ridiculous. And the passing power is plentiful. You spot a gap, you can make that gap. And do so with more than a little throttling. Oh my gosh. That's entertaining. And when your childishness has run out, you'll take it out of V mode and you might activate the Super Cruise function that's an option here on the Escalade V. The way that works is by setting your adaptive cruise and then triggering on this button for Super Cruise. The green light bar means that it's been activated, and that means that hopefully the minivan isn't going to come into me, but I have my foot off the throttle and brake, and I can actually take my hands off the wheel because the Escalade V is going to negotiate not only the forward and backward, but the positioning in the lane. And when opportunities presents itself, it'll even change lanes for me. I've used a bunch of these different driver assisted features over the years, including some other hands-free functions, and this has got to be probably the best in the business in terms of smoothness and in terms of communication, because these light bars tell you all you need to know, easy to inspire confidence for hands-free driving like this. So now let's try out a lane change. So I'll indicate that way, and if there's an opening, it saw it, it'll move over and get back into the center of the lane. It'll take a curve like this without any real issue and not requiring me to get my hands back on the wheel. It just does it all for you. And this, along with the massage, which honestly is not the best massage in the world, it just kind of gently pushes at your back, is gonna put you at ease for your commute. There's a whole lot less work you've got to do, while of course paying attention the entire time. Now, because this is a living with video, it's worth mentioning that Super Cruise isn't just a one and done situation. You don't just buy the Escalade V, pay for Super Cruise once, and then you're good. You actually have to keep up a monthly subscription to this service to continue using it, which is getting into this new era of subscription-based car services, which I just don't like. It's like, okay, I bought Super Cruise, I have to keep paying for it to actually use the technology that I know is baked into my vehicle. I just can't access it. And a final consideration when commuting in an Escalade V is going to be the ambient volume inside this cabin at these speeds. So I'm going to quiet up and we'll listen for that. This is crazy impressive to me. It is a massive box hurtling through the air, and yet wind noise is kept low, tire noise and road noise are also muted. This active noise cancellation system that we have with this AKG reference sound system is so good. Even on this louder road surface, which in so many vehicles, so many luxury vehicles, generates all this noise, it doesn't in this vehicle. And so you just stay relaxed for all of your commute. But now let's say you're not commuting, you're actually shuttling your kids to soccer practice, and they're way back there in the third row, and even though it's quiet in here, they say they can't hear you. Well, you can turn on this conversation enhancement feature, which will carry your voice through the speakers to the third row, so you don't have to shout. You can just calmly say, "Tommy, stop poking your brother." And he has no excuse for not hearing you. All right, I made it into work, and now I just have the small task of parking this giant vehicle. I'm gonna give myself a bit of a challenge here. This is on the tighter end of things, but I have some features to help me out, including the surround view camera system, which I showed you briefly earlier. We got a normal view, a wide view, an overhead one, and a side view. That rhymes. Which I actually use for garage spots that are tighter, so you don't want to scrape up those wheels or along anything you've got stowed in the garage. This one's great for that. And then we've got the rear view, which as I go into reverse is going to give you some trajectory lines. And as I'm backing up, I also have the parking sensors, which don't just make a noise, they actually vibrate my seat to tell me I'm real close to something. I'm not gonna make this one in one go. My seat's vibrating away. Hey, you're too close. And actually, if I kept going for it, it would slam on the brakes. So I'll go back into drive, pull forward here, and then after a few more vibrations, carefully make my way back, put it in park, and I can even see how I've done from within the car. Go to this 3D view. Despite it being a tighter spot, I've done as well as reasonably possible. I'm good with that. And it's off to work I go. Oh, that's an issue though. I can't fully open the door. Huh. To a different space we go. And therein lies one of the challenges of the Escalade V. You can be an expert parker, but you're still only going to be able to park in a space that can accommodate the oversized dimensions of this SUV. I mean, we're pretty much edge to edge in this new parking space, whereas this CL next to me has at least almost a foot on one of its sides. Okay, off to work. Finally, time for lunch. I am starved, and I mean, this is kind of pointless, but just to make the approach a little more exciting, Now, what should I eat? Let's see, the Escalade V, it represents big American luxury, so I think I'm gonna need a big American meal. And the place I have in mind is called The Stand, which is sloganed appropriately an American eatery. All right, I got my grub, but now to find a place to kick my feet up and eat it. I do have an idea. Let's fold down these seats. Pretty quick at that. And with the air suspension lowered at this access height, not difficult to get back and in, and I still have the seats as a backrest. Now, I did say big American meal, so you're probably expecting a burger, but yeah, I got a salad. I've eaten way too many burgers lately. While I still have a few minutes left on my lunch break, let's take a look at the exterior and interior highlights of the Escalade V as it relates to livability. This is a glitzy mode of transportation, and so if that intimidates you or turns you off, just know that unlike the stealth mode to the exhaust, there is never a stealth mode to the exterior design. Opening the large doors, which swing out nice and wide to give me a great access point to load or unload kids in car seats. More on that in a moment. And the running boards deploy to load in everyone else. The kids will appreciate the step up. The adults will enjoy the grab handles to guide them in. And now behind my own seat at 6 feet tall, with this seat slid pretty far forward, I still have some knee room there. The foot pockets are nice and large. The thigh support could be better, and the headroom, well, that checks out. But now let me pull this lever and slide the seat much further back. That really opens up the legroom. I can also recline the seat, yeah, to lounge with my armrest here, pull it back up, and access the cup holders found here in the console underneath. We've got 2 USB-C ports down there, HDMI ports, to hook something up to one of your 2 16-inch touchscreens, and there's an AC outlet down there as well. With the captain's chairs, I can just walk back to the 3rd row, first positioning myself behind this seat that slid all the way back and still finding knee room and a place to stretch out my legs. But if I try behind this seat that's further forward, I'm an even happier camper. And as I close up this door, listen for the sound of that solid thud. Peering at the front seats, which are in the same semi-aniline leather as the rear, but have heating, ventilation, and massage. The front doors show off some of this zebra wood trim, which is the only trim offered on the Escalade V, and I think looks pretty tacky, to be honest. You have the 2 front windows being 1 touch-up down, but why oh why on this $150,000 SUV are the rear windows power, but not 1 touch? We've got power adjusting and power folding door mirrors there, and an easy way into the driver's seat. Beneath that screen are physical climate controls to cut down on distraction. There's more leather around the gear selector area. It's on the back of the selector, but the face is a cheaper plastic that creaks in the hands. I also don't like the feel of the volume knob or scroll wheel. Neither just scream quality to me. You've got your cup holders, you've got 2 USB ports, 1A, 1C. And now I need to rant about the wireless charging hole for a moment, because I understand they're trying to save space instead of it taking up a lot of horizontal room, a lot of surface area there. But the problem with this is that if a smartphone is not inside it, then, at least in my experience, a key fob or something can fall into that hole, and then you're spending minutes wedging your hand inside to try to pry it out, or in my case, having to find a pen to use as a tool to get it out. Yeah, I know that's a fringe case, but certainly crumbs or any number of things can fall in there. I think that if you're actually living with this interior, that it's going to be the traditional luxuries that will win you over. The feel of the leather, the space inside. As a 6-footer, being able to fit in the driver's seat behind myself at 6 feet, and then behind that in the 3rd row is pretty impressive. And now I have to go back to work. After work, or maybe even before the day starts, you'll want to use your Escalade V for hobbies, like perhaps surfing. So let's see how this vehicle can accommodate. Now, clearly, I'm not going to fit the surfboard behind the 3rd row, so I need to get those down. But actually, I'm going to leave the right side up, just take the left side down. And just to be safe, let's pull the 2nd row down as well. With that flat, got a big access point for my 9-footer. To start its journey in, and that's not going to be enough room, so let's get some towels and weasel it between the front two chairs. Okay, I power recline this front seat so we can kind of just pull it up through where it needs to rest here and confirm that it's going to clear the tailgate. Pull that down. And we are in business. Oh, shoot. I forgot to put all my gear inside. Well, I don't actually have to lift up the whole tailgate. I can just pop this back glass and have easy access to load up my wetsuit and booties, which are Velcroed to it, and my gloves. It is a very cold day today. Hat and 2 towels. Off on the right-hand side. And now we're good to go. And from the driver's seat, I'm not even remotely inconvenienced by the surfboard being here. I wouldn't even know it was here if I didn't see the big yellow thing in my periphery. Now, if I did have other people with me, I would have to make some adjustments. I could either raise back up the front passenger seat and tilt the surfboard on its side, or I could just pretend I was a limo driver and have a passenger way back there in the 3rd passenger side seat. All right, made it out, got a spot next to the water and taking a peek at the surf. Doesn't look half bad. Maybe 2 to 3 feet. Wouldn't be great for shortboarders, but that is why I brought my longboard. It's actually a little warmer than I was expecting too, so I won't need all this stuff. I'm just gonna have to do the dreaded change into the wetsuit. Well, I found something more exhausting than putting on a wetsuit, and that is putting it on twice. Like, I was so excited to go surfing, I just threw on my suit, wasn't paying attention, and then at the top, realized I had put it on backwards, so I had to take it all the way off, of course towel change myself, and then put it back on. I'm tired. But now I can finally go surfing. So I'm gonna pull out my board here. And I'm almost ready to go. Of course I can leave my phone and wallet inside the car, but not the key fob. So I brought along with me a lockbox, but I'm gonna need something to lock it to. And for that, I'm gonna need to remove the hitch cover where there is going to be a hole, a solid hole that no one's gonna be able to yank the thing off and lock the lockbox to that. To get this cover off, it's just 2 quick twister screws, removes easily. And then after I've locked up the car, and put the key fob inside, slot through the holes, into here, press down, scramble the combo, and it's off to have a great time surfing. All right, that session was better than expected, like 3 to 4 feet waves, not 2 to 3, and a better performance for myself than I anticipated, not having surfed for 9 months since my second kiddo was born. I did pretty well. And now I have a very important question for you. And that is, have you ever wondered how quick an Escalade V would get to 60 with a longboard surfboard in it? Probably haven't, but I have. And so we're gonna find out now by going into the V drive mode, which will enable launch control that we'll have a chance to use here at this light. Okay, surfboard braced for launch, holding my foot on the brake, pinning the throttle, building up the revs, and letting go. And there's 60 in 4.47 seconds. Surf is most definitely up. Okay, I'm gonna finish up this day in the life with the Escalade V by showing you the car seat setup. So we find lower latch anchors in both of the captain's chairs, but none in the 3rd row. Instead, we've got top tethers for those 3 back seats and for the captain's chairs. I wish we did have lower latch anchors in the 3rd row, just because it opens up your options a little bit, but we can work with this for the installation of my kids' 2 rear-facing seats. Here I have the infant car seat behind my driver's seat. And unfortunately, we can see it's actually touching this rear entertainment screen. So I am going to need to bring my seat a little further forward so that there is daylight between the two. We're clear now. How does that impact my driving position? I'm still very comfortable. I think my knees are just a little more bunched up than I would prefer. Not a big deal. And then on the passenger side, with the toddler car seat, we can see there is just a little bit of daylight. I can pass my hand through between the two. So where the passenger seat is, with plenty of room here, you'd be comfortable. And as a quick reminder, I was able to fit at 6 feet tall behind that seat, slid all the way back where it is with those car seats. So you won't have an issue putting bigger kids or even adults back here in the third row. And with all that shown, it's about time to take this Escalade V into the night. All right, crew, the Escalade V is ready for its night drive. And I am ready to summarize my thoughts on what it's like to live with this big American luxury beast. Check out those caddy crests on the puddle lamps and the illumination on the door handles and the ambient lighting on this interior. Before I get too far down the rabbit hole on the pros and cons of living with the Escalade V, there's one more gauge cluster display that now I can finally show you, and that is night vision. Now, I recognize that in suburbia or in a metropolitan area, this is probably unnecessary, but if you live somewhere rural where wildlife like deer may be running across your roads, then having something that picks up the heat signature and visuals of those animals before they emerge in front of you could be really useful. There were many things I just loved about living with the Escalade V, but there were a couple details that could be drawbacks. For one, some of the trim pieces did look and feel kind of cheap. I'm talking about the zebra wood and the feel of these dials here in the center console, and we were missing certain things that I feel like should be here for $150,000, like second row seat ventilation and another zone of climate in the third row. Then there's the simple fact that for me, this isn't really an issue, but for some people who are perhaps dimensionally concerned, this isn't going to be as easy to drive as a crossover, something that is more maneuverable and is perhaps smaller in terms of the exterior dimensions. Though many times you're going to find that incredible exhaust note invigorating, unless you're riding in stealth drive mode, it might be a little obnoxious for people around you, and in particular your neighbors. And the final drawback is definitely the most significant, and that's the fact that the EPA rates the Escalade V at 13 combined MPG, and I've been seeing 10. But those little nuisances pale in comparison to all the great aspects of living with the Escalade V. And we'll return to the noises it makes, because they might be obnoxious in certain situations to others, but to you, they're nothing but awesome. And when you do peel back from the full-on acceleration, you'll find this cabin to be incredibly quiet for what it is: non-aerodynamic, supercharged V8, oh my gosh, the overrun, and yet incredibly well insulated. It's also very comfortable for a body-on-frame SUV. The magnetic ride control just softens up the road blemishes, so you stay very much at ease in the driver's seat. Now, though it is a little irritating that you have to pay for this feature on a monthly subscription, Super Cruise is a really handy bit of technology that is going to reduce some driving fatigue on longer highway commutes or your road trips. And the final yet most important highlight of living with the Escalade V is all the sheer volume inside. Whether it's for hauling your kids around or for pursuing hobbies like surfing, you can do it all in the Escalade V. Oh, and then hook up your toys to the hitch and tow whatever you want to bring with you. And so I think if you can afford the cost of entry, once again, $150,000, you're going to absolutely love living with the Cadillac Escalade V. I hope you guys have enjoyed this POV day in the life video. If you did, please like, comment, and share it. Subscribe to the channel, hit that bell to get notified, and I will see you again next time.